20-year-old Sierra Medrano is suing her ex-boyfriend, 22-year-old Clarence Alejandro Moreland, for a loan to break his apartment lease.
Order. All rise. Now it's case number 503 on the calendar in the matter of Medrano versus Moreland.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Medrano, defendant was your boyfriend, and you claim that you made a $1,200 loan in order to help him break a lease for his apartment. Mr. Moreland has an entirely different story, which I'm going to let him tell me.
Right.
Because you do acknowledge that she gave you $1,200.
Correct.
When did she give you the $1,200?
It's around February of 2008, during my birthday. I was going to depart the city. I told her I was going to leave.
You were going to leave what city?
Indianapolis, and I was going back to New York. And
Are you originally from New York?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long were you and Miss Medrano dating at the time?
For about a year. And that's when she had persuaded me that I should stay, get an apartment. I got an apartment because I had a friend that also, too, needed an apartment. So we got the apartment together.
Where was Miss Medrano living?
She was staying with her mother at the time.
Go ahead.
And during that time, I had a friend. He moved in with me. He was unable to financially make the rent. So
just a minute. So you rented an apartment with a friend?
Right.
Did you sign a lease?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the friend sign the lease?
No, ma'am.
And how much was the rent?
$500 a month.
So you each were paying $250?
Right.
And then he couldn't make the rent?
Right, he couldn't make the rent.
So what happened, Mr. Moreland?
At that time, he left the apartment, and I told her that I was...
When was this?
This was around April of 2008, last year, and I had made her aware, notified her that I was going to leave the city right then and there because I didn't have an apartment to go to, and I just wanted to leave.
Well, you had an apartment to go to. You had signed a lease.
Right.
So you were just going to break the lease and leave?
Yeah, I was going to break the lease and leave.
And what did she say?
She said, no, don't do that. Stay. I'll give you the money. So then she gave me $1,200.
What was the $1,200 for?
It was for the rent because I wasn't able to pay his half. And then also, too, there were some other things.
That's not correct.
Shh. I'll get to you in a minute.
And then also, too, I had a car payment that I had to make.
Okay. Now, in April of 2006, did Miss Medrano come to stay with you?
No, she did not. She was already staying there. And she already had her belongings already there.
Already
during
where?
the time, at the apartment.
How often did she stay there?
I say about 5 nights out of 7 nights during the week. The weekend she would leave and go back over during Mother's or do with her.
Why is that?
I don't know why I don't know if she was going to the club or what she was doing.
What club?
Clubs around the city or wherever.
What were you doing on the weekends?
I was doing the same thing. I was go to the...
Shh. All right, Miss Medrano, let's hear your version of the $1,200.
In April, he asked me to borrow the money, and I told him no at first, but then eventually I did let him borrow it. And that was not to pay any of his bills. That was actually to break the lease of his apartment and move into another one in Indianapolis.
Did he, in fact, do that?
No, he did not. I'm really not sure where the money went to.
I want you to tell me exactly what he said to you.
He asked me to borrow the money in order to break the lease to his apartment and move into another apartment in Indianapolis. But I really strongly believe that he was behind on child support and that it went to his baby's mother.
Were you behind in child support?
No, ma'am.
How much did you pay in child support?
It was just $50 a week, so I wasn't, no reason to be behind him.
And actually, I have another statement. His baby mother called me, so that's why I really strongly believe that, because she did let me know that he was behind on.
Don't tell me what she said. That's hearsay. Okay. When did the two of you break up?
In May of 2008.
Under what circumstances?
Because he was cheating on me with his baby's mother.
That's incorrect. I was just being honest with her. I made her aware that I wasn't going to be able to be faithful to her. It wasn't with any ex-girlfriend or anything else like that. I just let her know I wasn't going to be able to be faithful, so we might as well not be in a relationship. And that's when she had got upset.
It's not true.
And agitated about the situation.
Okay, so let me understand this. You broke up a month later.
Right, correct.
Or within that month.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, you were taking $1,200 from her.
Yes, ma'am.
To pay a variety of bills, none of which were hers.
Correct.
And shortly after you got the $1,200 from her, you told her that you could not be faithful to her in a committed relationship.
Correct.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
Nice. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,200. Thank you. That's
Parties are excused.
Counterclaims dismissed.
You may step out.
Pretty much just a woman scorn, and this is just really how a woman gets sometimes.
He had been lying to her also.
Honesty doesn't pay off at the end of the day.
Learn how to be faithful.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Massa versus Nowak. Step forward, please.
Sammy Massa is suing his ex-boyfriend, Daryl Nowak, for unpaid loans to pay his rent and car note. He is also suing for the return of his record collection.
Mr. Massa, you and the defendant lived together for approximately 8 years, according to your complaint. You lived together as a couple, and you claim that during that period of time, you paid as a loan to the defendant his share of living expenses, rent, and car payments when he lost his job. You want that money back. In addition, you say that when he left, he took a valuable and sentimental CD collection, and you want that back. The defendant says that he has the CD collection, that he's keeping it, holding it hostage until you return to him some of the things. I assume that some of the things, they were things that you gave to him as gifts that you refused to return to him. And he says that as far as the rent and car payments were concerned, there was never any discussion when you were together about that money being paid back. Are these the items that you want, sir, that are your gifts?
I believe they are, yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Can we turn those, first let me see them, and then we'll turn them over to the defendant and take care of his counterclaim. Mr. Massa, you bought these for the defendant as gifts?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. There's a bracelet with your name on it. It looks like a watch. What else?
I have 2 antique estate chairs that I would also like returned to me.
2 antique estate chairs, sir. Do
Yes,
you have
Your Honor.
those?
Yes, Your Honor.
Could we make arrangements to get those to the defendant?
Sure, as soon as I receive...
No.
Okay.
They're his things. You can't hold
Okay.
things hostage. We don't hold things hostage. Okay. So these 2 things we turn over to the defendant. Thank you, Bert. And then we'll make arrangements within 5 days to get your 2 chairs.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, you get your 2 chairs when he gets back his record collection. Do you understand? So we're
Yes,
going to
ma'am.
make that a transfer, so we know that the chairs come to you in good condition and the record collection goes to the plaintiff in good condition, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sammy Massa says his former live-in boyfriend, Daryl Nowak, owes for rent, car payments, and the return of his record collection.
Now let's talk about this money.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Massa. I'm prepared to hear you.
Daryl Nowak lost his job at the end of February and came to me in March and asked me if I would loan him money to pay his vehicle while he awaited a 401k payout and his vacation pay from his prior employee.
And how much was the vehicle payment?
The first payment was an amount of $300, and so I went and paid that, and then...
Had you ever paid for the car before?
No, Your Honor.
Is that correct, that he had never paid for it before?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so $300. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, and then back in April of 08...
April of 08, yes.
Yes.
What did he need in April of 08?
I paid another car payment of his for $325.
Okay.
And then somehow on the 5th month, he was able to call...
I got a deferment for the car payment for that month, Your Honor.
Fine.
Okay, so...
Due to the fact that I had lost my position.
Okay, good.
And then on 6/3, I loaned him $335.
For a car
payment again.
Is that correct, Mr. Nowak?
I believe it was correct, Your Honor. There was an incidental amount for, I think they had placed insurance or something.
Okay, go.
And then in July, $225.
Also for the car?
For the car payment as well. And then...
I was making arrangements at that time due to the loss of my employment. They gave me a reduced amount.
Got it. I got it. So far, this is what you owe him.
Yes.
Okay, and then on August of 8, he asked for another $325, Your Honor, which I paid for another car payment.
Go ahead.
Okay, I also paid a share of rent. The total amount of rent was $600. We was living with my mother. She paid $300, and the agreement was that we would pay $150 each. He did pay in March his $150, but from there on out, from April through September of 08, he did not pay any of his rent. I paid that, which totals the amount of $900, which he owes me.
Do you agree you owe him that money, Mr. Nowak?
I don't know if that amount is correct, Your Honor.
That is correct. 150 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equals $900.
I didn't realize I was supposed to maintain an expense sheet in a relationship.
Well, the
Well, what I'm
relationship was
asking you
over
is,
there
Mr.
at the
Nowak,
time,
did you ask
there
him
was
to
no
pay...
relationship anymore. Excuse me.
Did you ask him to pay your share of the rent?
He paid the share of the rent. I didn't ask him to pay it.
Well, how else was you supposed to?
No, Mr. Massa. Don't interfere. Okay. So far, he acknowledges he owes you the car payments, correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now we come to an issue. The issue is whether or not there was a loan with regard to the rent.
I never agreed to repay anything.
He's
Did
lying.
you, just a minute, did you ask him to pay your share of the rent?
Yes, he did.
No, I did not, Your Honor.
I'm not asking you anything.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Did you ask him to pay
No,
your
ma'am, I
share of
did
the
not.
rent? All right, Mr. Massa, I'd like you to tell me how it came about that you paid the entire $300.
The lease was in my mother's name. Each month, I would give my mother $300 cash, and she would put in the other $300.
Oh, I understand that.
Right, and he asked me if I would pay his share of rent because I wasn't going to pay his expenses to have him to live.
Why not? You were living.
Yeah,
Why
well,
not?
we never did that before. Everything was.
I understand, but he had no job now.
Well, that's not my responsibility.
Mr. Massa, let me explain something to you, sir. There has to be an agreement to repay
He
in
did
order
agree
to have.
to it.
Shh. There has to be an agreement to repay in order for there to be a loan. You paid his share of the rent because you were a couple, you were living together, and he didn't have
And
a
I
job.
had lost my job.
Do you understand?
Yes, I understand, but we wasn't a couple anymore. I moved back to the back bedroom after an incident that
I didn't
happened.
keep track of every time I bought you dinner and.
Well, that has
No,
nothing
don't
to do with.
Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. When did you move back to
I
the...
moved back in. Okay.
I ask a question, you answer. When did you move to the back bedroom, and what
I moved
month?
back there the day after my birthday in February of 2008.
Is that correct?
Or shortly thereafter.
Well, then, from April until September of 2008, you weren't a couple. You owe him the rent, sir. What else?
Okay, he also borrowed 258 some odd cents for
I think it was
insurance payment.
$228.
It was $258, Your Honor.
When?
August the 21st, when the car company called him and said that they would no longer carry his insurance premium anymore. He had to get insurance himself.
And you were no longer a couple then?
We was no longer a couple, but he asked me, so I went down. I put 258 some odd cents. I think it was 37 cents.
You drove the car. It was important there was insurance on it.
Mr. Nowak, listen. You want to speak to him? Go outside and speak to him.
I assume it was an expense, that both of us incurred. I made the car payments prior to being unemployed. I didn't ask him for it. He drove the car during that time frame also. It's what you do in a relationship.
You weren't in a relationship anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, if you were in a relationship, my reaction would be totally different. But from what both of you indicate,
We were
there
living
came a
in the
time-
same home.
You were living in the same home, but you were no longer living under the same bedroom roof. And there was a specific break in the relationship because he says he moved out of the room that you had shared into a back bedroom. And he did that in February of 2008, and all of these bills accrued subsequent to that. Okay. You owe him $2,668. That's all. The exchange of property will be made within 5 days.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
I didn't realize you had to maintain an expense sheet when you're in a relationship.
You have to pay for yourself in life. I'm not going to pay for somebody else.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Williams versus Bertello, step forward, please.
25-year-old Ashley Williams is suing her ex-roommate, 23-year-old Joseph Joey Bertello, for unpaid rent on their shared apartment.
Ms. Williams, you and the defendant were friends and leased an apartment together. He moved out to go into rehab. Had a drug problem or a drinking problem?
Pain prescription pills.
You could not maintain the apartment by yourself. You broke the lease. And now the landlord is pursuing you for 7 months' rent. You want the defendant to pay half of that.
Correct.
When did you sign the lease?
We signed the lease in June of 2007.
When did you move out, sir?
It was November 2007.
When did you move out?
November 2007.
You moved out to go into rehab.
Yes.
Why did you move out?
I moved out because I couldn't afford to live there anymore.
How much was the rent?
$1,190.
Do you have any notification from the landlord that they are pursuing you for this money?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please? Okay, sir. I'm prepared to hear your defense.
Okay. Starting from the beginning?
Well, you don't have to start back from your birth. You moved into the apartment June of 07. You moved out November of 07.
Correct.
The landlord wants, between the two of you, $7,840.
Correct.
Why should you not be responsible for half of that?
Well, when I moved out, I had developed a problem. I had been in several car accidents prior to that, and I was prescribed medications, and it just got to be out of control. And I kind of sat her down and said, look, I need to go get help. I'm going to move back in with my parents for now and check myself into a rehab. And when I told her that, she agreed that it was more important than living together and, you know, the rent. And so we had an agreement that I was going to move out and she was going to ask her sister to move in with her and take my place.
You had an agreement that you would try to find somebody else.
Yeah, her sister. She had mentioned that her sister liked our place and maybe possibly thought about moving in. And when
well, that's a possibility. Did that happen?
No, it didn't.
Didn't happen?
No. And so a few days later, she had left to go to LA to visit her boyfriend at the time. My mom came and stayed with me at the apartment, and then after that, I got all my things and left. When I came back and she was there, that's when she told me, look, I can't find anybody. I'm going to move out now. And so I told her, I said, I thought we were in agreement that you were going to have your sister move in.
No, there was no agreement, sir. You just said to me there was a possibility that maybe her sister would move in. But before you got all your things together and moved out, she told you that her sister wasn't moving in.
No, that actually happened afterwards. When I got my stuff and I came back for the last of my things.
Your stuff was still there. If the last of your things was still there, sir, you were still there. She told you she couldn't get her sister to move in. You had a choice. You could have stayed in the apartment.
Yeah, I mean, but I did tell her.
When you left in November, where did you immediately go?
The first place I went was my mother's.
And how long did you stay there?
I stayed there for about a month, and then that's when I checked into rehab.
Did you finish rehab?
Yes.
You're okay now?
Yeah.
Great. You owe her half this money. I'm glad you went into rehab. I'm glad everything is great. I'm glad you recognized it. All of that is terrific. You can't leave somebody in the lurch because you had a problem.
I actually have proof that he's lying, if you would like that. He signed something when we moved out saying that he would be rent responsible as well as me until the apartment was rented. I
thought that was I was signing away saying that I don't have any more responsibilities to this apartment. I thought the agreement was saying that.
It specifically says
whether
you
he
do.
did or whether he didn't. Judging for the plaintiff for the amount of $39.20. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.